Dale in North Carolina is on the Dr. Pepper call-in line, wants to weigh in on Matt Nagy. Good morning, Dale.
Good morning, guys. Nice to hear you. You're doing too much talking. Keyshawn, nobody wants to hear that soliloquy. You said a lot but didn't say nothing. I agree with Jay. He could shut these press conferences down on Monday. The starter will be a game-time decision. Period. That's what Belichick would do. That's what a addicted type guy would do. All this guy Nagy is kind of flaky to me. He's one of these woke coaches that you guys love. Too much talking, and he never gives you an answer. His answers allow the reporters to ask even more. Shut it down. Starter will be a game-time decision. What's wrong with that?
Nothing's wrong with it. You're right, Dale. Tell him, Dale.
Starter will be a game-time decision is the same thing as saying we're evaluating him.
When did you start defending Matt Nagy? When did this happen?
Well, Key, we got to move on, but I would say this. Key, I hear what you're saying.
You got to be realistic, Jay.
You're reading between the lines. He actually did say Andy Dalton's the starter if healthy. He actually said those words.
Yes, but he's not going to ever be healthy.
Right. Keyshawn, J. Will, and Max, presented by Progressive Insurance, and all guests on the Goodyear Hotline.
In a 24-hour news cycle, everything feels like news.
Yeah, it's not news at all.
Let's find out what's hot news or not news.
Key, well, you tell me. Is this hot news? Or not news?
You're so scary. You done threw it to me. I literally just pointed to him, though, Dan.
Chopping wood in the mouth.
When I saw him, I pointed to Max. It was like, seriously?
Dan Graziano giving the Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. No contract, no compromise. All right.
A lumberjack.
He looks good.
We're going to play hot news or not
put
news.
A helmet on that guy. Look at that thing.
Oh.
We're going to play hot news or not
Are we?
news.
We going to talk about the Bears?
We're going to start with the Bears.
Bears.
Can you please be the tiebreaker for this?
Matt Nagy saying Andy Dalton will be the starter when healthy. This is what it comes to. Key is saying basically not news. Jay saying hot news. Is it hot news or not news?
It's not news because he's what he's been saying all along. Like nothing's really changed from Matt Nagy's standpoint. I agree, by the way, that this is a case of somebody that isn't great in the press conference, right? He's not communicating publicly whether it's he's holding something back that he doesn't want to say or whether he's just not able to get the message about his plan across. I think it's probably the first thing. I mean, if he doesn't think Justin Fields is ready, then I don't think he wants to come out and say that because it's an insult to the young man. So that's my suspicion on what's going on here. But yeah, it is the story that keeps on giving, isn't it?
It's not news at all because from my experience in dealing with coaches, when a player's injured and a coach takes over and he's balling, the coach will extend that injury as long as he needs to keep getting W's so he doesn't lose his locker room.
You know why it's hot news? Just look at the history. Matt Nagy was the play caller last year. It didn't work out well. Mitchell Trubisky, he goes over to Nick Foles. He passes the playmaking calls over to Bill Lazor. He comes back. I'm the guy now. We got the right quarterback. Hey, we got QB1, Andy Dalton. I'm the play caller. You know what? I'm not the play caller anymore. Bill Lazor's the play caller now. I'm just confused about the whirlwind of the roller coaster ride, Dan. It's a roller coaster ride.
You know what, Jay? I agree with you. I think it's hot news because he said the words, Andy Dalton is a starter. Key. I know he said when healthy, and then Andy Dalton will never be healthy. But at this moment, he said Andy Dalton's a starter.
He ain't going to be healthy. Trust me.
Hot news or not news, Justin Herbert beating the Chiefs and Raiders in back-to-back weeks. Dan Graziano.
It's hot news. I mean, are the Chargers the best team in the AFC West? Like, are they the favorites over the Chiefs now? Like, this is big.
He's reading my notes.
We know Justin Herbert. We saw this last year. We know they can score. Derwin James back on defense matters a lot. And the fact that he's healthy, which he hasn't been for most of his career, makes a big difference on that side of the ball. They look all around great. My only issue with the Chargers is I feel like they're kind of like the Cowboys of the AFC. But every time we start to think, oh, this is it, they're really going to cash in on it, they let us down. But, boy, do they look good.
Yes, it's hot news. There's no question about it. Not did they just beat the Chiefs and the Raiders. You got to look at Derwin James. Closing speed, Dan, was unbelievable watching on TV. He was out of the screen, then all of a sudden he appears in the screen. That says a lot to me. And Austin Eckler at running back. I see why they moved on from
Melvin Gordon.
I almost called him Melvin Ingram. Melvin Gordon. I see why they decided to say, bye-bye, see you later. because they seen what Eckler could bring to the table.
Yeah, he's been doing it.
I keep thinking Kyler Murray small. Then I see Austin Eckler. I'm like, oh, wow. How tall is he?
Ooh, who's bigger?
I don't
That's a
know.
good question.
That's a good Kyler Murray.
Well,
Austin
Kyler
Eckler.
Murray, I think, is bigger than Eckler.
You think?
Eckler,
Taller.
yeah. Eckler looks like he's
just a little bit.
5'8", 5'9".
Yeah, he was standing next to them linemen. He looked. Yeah.
Those little backs, though, they can hide. Yeah.
I like him a lot, though.
I'll tell you, and Justin Herbert is just different. I mean, we had this whole thing about him penetrating the LA market in time and getting a sliver of that market share. I don't know how you're not a Justin Herbert fan.
So they both 5'10". Evan just jumped in my ear and said,
No way Kyler Murray and Austin Eckler are the same
listed
height.
at 5'10".
Listed.
No, they probably legitimately 5'10".
I was listed at 6'4".
Yeah, but
NBA 6'4".
Got him fooled,
Well,
Max.
never mind. I'm not even going to go.
It is hot news, and I get the feeling that the Chargers have turned a corner there, that it's not like you're just waiting for the collapse anymore. Justin Herbert's different. Yeah, Phillip Rivers was excellent. You could see that right away. Justin Herbert is specially talented. Hot news or not news, Vic Fangio bashes the Ravens for their attempt late in the game at that record. Hot news or not news?
I think this story is a not news, right? Because I think like what the Ravens did is pretty inoffensive in the grand scheme of things. They weren't trying to run up the score. They didn't run some kind of super high risk play. I think there's some sour grapes here with Vic Fangio. If there's news, it's him saying player safety is secondary to them about the Ravens, and that's a little bit of a rough thing to say. But I don't think what the Ravens did qualifies as big or hot news because it was harmless.
Yeah, it's not hot news for what Dan is saying, but it's hot news because Vic Fangio opened up his mouth again about something, and that's the only reason why. And for me, it's like he's always saying something. It's not that big of a deal. It's 3 damn yards or whatever it was, and they sealed it off so nobody would get hurt.
Yeah.
The defense didn't even run to the ball. Basically, they trotted to the ball. And he slid down.
It looked like they set it up beforehand.
Yeah, hey man, we get ready.
They didn't, or else Vic wouldn't
yeah,
be
it was
upset.
like, hey man, we getting ready to do this for Lamar. Okay, cool.
Yeah, Vic Fangio just reminds me of one of those uncles that a lot of my friends had at their barbecues. Like, hey, let me tell you about what happened in 1935. Like, it just feels like he's that old guy, kind of like always complaining about something.
We're all going to be that uncle eventually if we aren't already.
Fair point.
It's hot news because of Vic Fangio.
Fair point.
It is hot news because of Vic Fangio. He went right at Harbaugh over something that he should not have gone at Harbaugh for, and now, therefore, we're talking about it. Hot news or not news? Urban Meyer apologizes following that viral video that showed him in not such a great situation. Hot news or not news, Dan Graziano?
It's hot news. I mean, what is this? How's the Urban Meyer thing going so far? Pretty good. Like, I don't understand. What has he done well or correctly since he got this job? And right now, I mean, what I don't like about it, like we talk about people that don't do the press conference well, this guy straight up lies. Like pretty much every time he talks. Like he's like, oh, I stayed behind to hang out with my grandchildren. Were they the ones holding the camera? I didn't see them in the video. So I don't understand exactly where he's coming from on that. He strikes me as the kind of guy who feels like he can do anything he wants and not explain himself. And I just don't think, being in the NFL, that's the case.
We got 20 seconds. Hot news or not?
Very hot, but we're going to elaborate on this later on in the show. So
it's hot. Go ahead.
I'll tune in. It's hot. I'll save my opinion for that.